Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Boots on the Ground HBCU Summer Wind Down Series. I'm Giovante Bishop, Director of Programs and Training here at In Our Own Voice. And while the summer may be winding down, things are just heating up here at In Our Own Voice as we continue to elevate the power and advocacy of HBCU leaders because we know when HBCU students lead, campuses shift, culture shifts, and policy shifts. This series isn't just a send off to summer, it's a call to action, a bold welcome into a new season of power building. So, as we continue raising the fight for reproductive justice on a campus near you, we are spotlighting the fearless, strategic, and brilliant advocacy happening right now on HBCU campuses across the country. And over the coming weeks, you'll meet fearless organizers, visionary advocates, and unapologetic changemakers who are rewriting the playbook for champion reproductive justice at HBCUs in real time. We know right now that the stakes are high, but our power is unshakable. So each conversation within this series is rooted in purpose and designed to accomplish three critical things. First, to showcase how HBCU students are driving change, not just in theory, but through boots on the ground advocacy that centers LGBTQ rights, comprehensive sex ed, bodily autonomy, and reproductive justice. Second, to disrupt the status quo and ensure that HBCUs are hubs for elevating reproductive justice. And third, to inspire and equip the next generation of leaders to take up space, to push boundaries, and to lead boldly without apology. So, my final charge to you all is that we built this series to uplift the brilliance, leadership, and lived experiences of young people who are changing the game. So, stay ready. Each week, we're coming with a bold reminder that the reproductive justice movement lives on HBCU campuses. So now I have the pleasure of turning the conversation over to my phenomenal colleague, Diogene Terrell. Diogene, please feel free to take us away.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Diogene Terrell, and I serve as the program coordinator here at In Our Own Voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda. And today's conversation is an important one. We are kicking off our Boots on the Ground HBCU Summer Wind Down series, and this session is centering LGBTQ allyship and intersectionality within the reproductive justice movement. And there's no better person to help us ground this conversation than our guest speaker. I'm excited to welcome Lo Blackwell, a passionate community organizer from Spark Reproductive Justice Now, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Lo brings a deep experience of youth organizing, trans and queer liberation, and advocacy that starts at the margins, pushing them towards the center. Together, we'll be talking about what support looks like for Black, trans, and non binary students at HBCUs, which is a particularly strong and favorite topic of mine, and how reproductive justice and queer liberation are deeply linked movements since inception. We also explore how allies on campus, from students to faculty, can take real steps to uplift LGBTQ advocates. And with that being said, Lo, I'm so happy that you are here today with us, sharing your time, sharing your golden nuggets. Please take some time to introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, Diogene, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity for giving me this platform to be able to spread awareness on the queer reproductive justice. My name is Marlo, but I do go by Lo. I am a community organizer too at Spark Reproductive Justice Now. I am closely working with our organizing director, Kay, and the organizing team, Chisholm, on community building and programming, focusing on folks who exist outside the binary and the trans experience. Currently, I'm diving into our Spark Ambassadorship Program, which focuses on connecting queer individuals and communities and queer reproductive justice um, with college students and the youth within that realm. My goal is to amplify the voices of these marginalized people and make reproductive justice more inclusive, of course. So let's queer things up.
Absolutely. We're all about queering RJ here. And that's a wonderful segue into the main meat of our conversation today. So, when we talk about reproductive justice and queer liberation, we're talking about two movements that have been interconnected, like I said, since inception. Even if the bridge has not always been there in the room, there's always a space for queer folks and folks within the reproductive justice movement to interconnect within that space. So, with that being said, both of these movements demand the right for self determination, bodily autonomy, and the power to live and love without a fear of control, especially in these times. At HBCUs in particular, there's a long history of both resistance and possibility when it comes to queer and trans visibility. And right now, we're seeing history unfold with bold student leadership at our HBCUs. And I do want to take a moment to shout out the work that our students are doing within the Next Generation Leadership Institute, who are actively championing LGBTQ liberation on their campuses by creating safe spaces, advocating for gender affirming policies and care on campus, and pushing for inclusions in all spaces and all ways that reflects the true spirit of reproductive justice and queer liberation. And with that being said, Lo, let's get into this. I would love for you to speak about how supporting Black, trans, and non binary students fit into the interwoven movement history. So, with that being said, what does that mean? What does it mean to really show up for HBCU students today as like queer advocates?
Um, Honestly, it starts with deep listening. Too often, people jump into program planning without actually consulting the folks that they're trying to support. Um, and if we're talking about supporting Black, trans, and non-binary students as a queer person or as a trans person, they also need to be in the room from the beginning, not just as the participants, but also as the leaders, of course. Allies, of course, can support by helping secure the funding, navigating bureaucracy, or using their privilege to remove those barriers, those adversities, those hardships that most college students have, and regular people in the communities have. We need spaces that center healing, joy, and safety, especially right now. Excuse me, right now with this political climate, safety is really what's needed. And to remember that do not act when something harmful happens. Go ahead and do it, prevent it, move through it, navigate it, so that we all can navigate it and all can move through that.
Absolutely, definitely emphasizing a more harm reduction model, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
rather than an afterthought and trying to, piece it back together when things have fallen apart. And I love that you said that. And I think that we're seeing from our fellows and our leaders within the reproductive justice movement that there are so many reproductive justice outcomes that we can serve. It's truly about the liberation piece and the freedom aspect.
Right.
Without justice, we don't have freedom. Freedom exists for us to thrive and to shape our own futures, no matter how we show up, whether it's sexual orientation, gender, presentation, or overall just anything else that falls under the lovely rainbow umbrella of
Right.
LGBTQ. So, with that said, I want to talk about some tangible solutions. We talked about how allies can use their privilege in this space for advocating for queer youth. Can you talk about some tangible ways that these students on campus can use their privilege to continue to uplift queer advocacy and support efforts?
Sure. Great question. To me, I feel like real allyship, and this is around allyship and the allies, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I feel like real allyship from non-LGBTQIA plus, queer, transgender, those who exist inside the binary, shows up when it's inconvenient. It's not just showing up to the pride events, to the programming that's specifically for the trans people, or to learn or to educate in that realm. It's correcting your friends when they're saying harmful things. It's correcting those people that saying or misgendering folks or dead naming people. It's being urgent or having the sense of agency in the space. It's making sure LGBTQ IA plus folks are represented in your orgs, in your programs, and not just as the token, because we often have those, correct? It also looks like, yikes, I lost my train of thought, but, passing the mic. Yeah, because most of our voices aren't being heard. Our experiences aren't being heard. So rather than speak over them, speak with them, have them speak for us, or me, or you in the community speak for what's going on and share their experiences. A big part of allyship is just being willing to learn and to mess up and to keep going anyway. Remembering that it's action and not the aesthetics, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I love how you said it's important to pass the mic. It's important to, share the space and fully know that, like, while you do have power, make sure that you are using and wielding that power to bring the folks that are from in the back of the club into the front of the club.
Right.
So that being said, I also wanted to add to that by saying, learn your history, know what's going on in your community around you. If you want to be an advocate and an ally, it's important to know the rich history of where the queer and trans folks are and have been working through on your campus and around you nationwide. So I do want to pivot a little bit more. I appreciate your thoughtful answers regarding how allyship can show up. So now that we've grounded ourselves in the why and the deep ties between the reproductive justice movement and the queer liberation movement, let's talk about, again, more about that practice, especially on HBCU campuses. So what does it look like when LGBTQ students are not just included, but actually leading within the reproductive justice movement to you?
Do you mind repeating the question? I'm sorry.
Yes. So what does it look like when LGBTQ students, queer, trans students are not just included in the movement, but actually are leading the movement? What does that look like to you?
I feel like that's wonderful. It's good to see the youth actually leading. I'm still young, so I'm one of the youth, but youth can go from 18 to 55 in our realm at Spark, and even beyond. But
Youth is in the mind.
Okay, youth is in the mind. You're absolutely right. LGBTQI plus queer, transgender, expensive folks, or students, they're already leading. They already want to do the work and already doing the work. And I feel like it came from COVID, the 2020, the riots and the Black Lives Matter campaign. I think it came from that, and it's it rooted from that, and then it just started sprouting. forward. Sorry, I'm trying to find my words. But a lot of us understand how bodily autonomy and health access and family freedom intersect because we've had to fight for those things personally in our day, in our everyday lives. So our leadership looks like organizing workshops on queer inclusive sex ed, fighting for inclusive healthcare on campuses, or just building care networks in the institutions that fall short, right? I guess being more radical in a sense, being more radical in a sense of intersectionality and with that lens, making sure that it is necessary for the future of reproductive justice. I think that's what I got.
I respect that, and I think that is a definite important thing when we talk about continuing to build. And I want to add that the importance of building within these movements is so that we can build coalition, so we can build group and movement building, if you will. Because as you said, the reproductive justice movement is so expansive. It not only touches the queer liberation space, we're talking about environmental justice, we're talking about disability justice, we're talking about education advocacy, and assisting incarcerated folks. So not only are we speaking about how students can lift this up, there's so many other spaces within this avenue that students can advocate for that impact their everyday lives and impact their campus lives. So we want to discuss in this space that while we are discussing queer liberation and we're talking about the intersectionalities of reproductive justice, both of these arms reach to the sky and touch so many different forms and facets of people in the world. And I appreciate you for naming that. So with that being said, now I want to shift away from more student lens. We're still talking about the youth, but we're talking about the youth that are youthful in mind. So like our faculty, our staff members, our administration. And I want to talk about them stepping up and looking beyond just students to student solidarity and advocacy. We need faculty and staff and administrative support, especially at our HBCUs.
Right.
It looks like them stepping up and showing out. So Lo, from your organizing and advocacy experience, what are some ways that HBCU faculty members, staff, administrators, advocates, future scholars, and the likes can intentionally create and sustain safe and affirming spaces for queer and trans students as a whole?
Great question. I do feel like now as a staff member who is still doing the work and alongside with Spark, I feel like it's right now in this moment, it is challenging due to the political climate, but there's still meaningful ways for faculty and staff to support queer students, queer, trans, and gender expansive folks. I say TGE, just to short it, but within that reproductive justice framework, that could look like being intentional about inclusive language in the classrooms, creating offices and environments where students feel affirmed and connecting with students' resources and mentors who understand their experiences. A lot of experiences go a long way. Without storytelling, there's no organizing, no grassroots organizing.
Say that again, yes.
There's no movement without storytelling in our experiences. So, collaborating with the student-led orgs, faculty, might I add, collaborating with the student-led organizations on campus, speaking about wellness, justice, disability justice, identity justice, and all those things can be used and could be held with changing and collaborating with the students. And sometimes, even just a little bit, the work can be quietly, compassionately done. Because we have folks who are in the background that don't want to be in the front, but those who are in the background still being visible in a way, because that being visible is not the only form of support. So just being there, doing the paperwork, like I said earlier, accessing the funding for these students, accessing the funding for the communities in the area, is always good for the to have, and it's always good to have someone who's of status supporting you. So that's what I'm here for, and that's why we built this Spark Ambassadorship Program, so that students who are in the program would be able to have that access and to be able to have that mentorship with us at Spark. So yeah.
I love you lifting up the Spark Ambassadors Program, as that was built just for college students to be able to be alongside of you in this work towards queer liberation, specifically queer and reproductive justice. And I also appreciate you naming that it is important to get in where you fit in. Like, not everybody is someone that's going to be on the forefront in the movement. Like, not everybody's going to be out at the marches, but you definitely can sign petitions. You definitely can support a volunteer opportunity. You definitely can pass the baton by connecting folks at different community organizations and things of that nature. There's so many ways that you can be active in this movement as a faculty member, and using your power and authority to be able to make change for students at HBCUs. And I also really want to continue to uplift and highlight the importance of community engagement with faculty members as a whole. I understand that there are, certain requirements and certain things and needs that need to be done in order for you to engage with community members.
Right.
However, the campus community is supported by the community around it. So I said a lot to say. Connect with the community organizations that are in your area. So, for example, if you are in Atlanta, Sparks in Atlanta. If you're interested in uplifting reproductive justice with a queer lens at your HBCU, Spark is a wonderful opportunity, similar to the Next Generation Leadership here, the Next Generation Leadership Institute here at In Our Own Voice, that's across the nation at various HBCUs, serving a wide variety of issues. So not only are we just talking about access to comprehensive sexual health education, we're talking about menstrual equity, we're talking about infertility justice. Like, there's so many ways that you can plug in and support, and as a faculty member, uplift those initiatives and get your students engaged in that. Like, this is for the people. This is for us. With that being said, again, I just thank you for naming that it's not enough for HBCUs to say that they support students. It's super, super imperative. It's a vital need for them to put in policies, protection, and the keyword programming.
I agree.
Programming behind the keyword. How are we gonna learn if we don't have no program?
Exactly.
And that's what real reproductive justice looks like on HBCU campuses and on a campus near you. And I do want to take some time to recenter, and this is a impromptu question, but I think it is important to ask in this space. What does reproductive justice look like to you in the future? What do we want our future to look like, especially for our young people?
Oh, this is a great question. I love this question. And my answer changes every time. But reproductive justice future looks like to me is where every person from any identity has what they need to live and to survive, and love freely. That means access to health care, access to funding, access to everything that is needed for you to live and for you to survive. That could be an abortion, access, gender affirming care, and all those great things without cost and stigma, right? It means a beautiful world without prisons and the police. Maybe a little harm reduction, is what is needed through care and accountability, transformative processes, and restorative justice. It means families, however you define them, chosen through blood, everything that is supported, not surveilled, if that makes sense. And to, not police ourselves, have a little confidence in ourselves and no doubts, only desires.
Agreed.
This future, or my future, will always center, liberation, as it is in my signature in my email. Cheers to liberation, always and forever. But not just survival. We're tired of surviving. We want to be liberated. And it's built on our leadership, our Black, queer, trans experience, gender expansive folks, all of our experiences, Black cis women, and that leadership. That's what I want. And, that's what I hope for. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I thank you, Lo, for leaving us with that very positive look into the future. And I just want to wrap us up today and discuss our major important things. As you can see on the screen, please follow Lo. She has a wealth of knowledge, and make sure you guys are also checking out Spark Reproductive Justice Now, us here at In Our Own Voice at Black Women's RJ. But I do want to close us out today and discuss what we talked about. Today we discussed the power of youth advocates uplifting LGBTQ liberation at the intersection of reproductive justice. We lift up the deep and undeniable intersections between our two movements, and we're making a plan. Our advocacy is stronger, it's strategic, and it's more sustainable than ever before when it is intersectional by design. Woo! With that being said, before we close out, I want to lift up a new initiative that we have recently launched, which is the State of Reproductive Justice at HBCU survey. The survey is designed to shape data-informed training, advocacy, and policy strategies. When you take the survey, you are entered to win a Telfar bag or a $50 gift card. And as a reminder, we are bringing the heat every Thursday of August at 1 p.m. So be sure to stay tuned in for next week, August 14th, with our next conversation entitled Activating Male Youth to Support Reproductive Justice Issues, featuring our lovely speaker from Men for Choice, Devontae Jennings, and you don't want to miss it. And with that being said, thank you again, Lo, for your time. We appreciate your golden nuggets. And to all who are tuning in, check out our HBCU State of Reproductive Justice at HBCU survey. Make sure you fill that out because we want to hear from you. Yes. All that being said, make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves, practicing radical rest, and let's continue the fight to advocate for our most marginalized and pushing those folks from the margins to the center. Peace, y'all. Have a good one.
In a time when our rights and our lives are under attack, we need bold truths and trusted voices leading the way. Outspoken with Regina brings policy, power, and purpose together, uncensored, unfiltered, and unapologetic. Now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, and speak truth with us. This is Outspoken with Regina, and we're just getting started.